DJ Durkin is staying at Auburn.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping up with the Daryl Dappich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. Big news, every Auburn fan waiting on pins and needles for the announcement of DJ Durkin staying at Auburn. There were rumors of him going elsewhere and all of that, and him being upset and all that, whatever. DJ Durkin is staying. That is now official, and obviously that's huge for Auburn for several reasons, Daryl.
Absolutely. This is one that transcends more than just one thing. It's on the field production. Obviously had one of the best defenses in the country, kept Auburn in a lot of games. I subscribe to the theory that sometimes they just got wore out, Zach, from an inept offense, right? They could have even had better defensive statistics in my mind. And then from an off the field standpoint, I think that it was very apparent the last 3 weeks, the players love him, both sides of the ball. All three, I guess you'd want to say special teams too. Really, really like DJ Durkin, really wanted him to stay. I'm not as high on the roster retention thing that I was maybe 3 weeks ago to a month ago, but it still matters because it matters for the right people that have to stay. And so players love him, good defense. Wonder how different it'll look on the field with a Golesh offensive coordinator, how that looks. But this is absolutely something that Auburn wanted to happen, needed to happen, and I think the players are happy as well as the fans.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the player retention thing, it matters. I don't know if it matters quite as much as some people are making it out to be, but regardless, it does matter. And now that box you think gets checked a little bit more anyway, or is more likely to be checked with DJ Durkin staying. And I like how you worded that, the right people. And we don't know fully who those guys are. It seems like Xavier Atkins would be a guy that would love DJ Durkin, right? He's the one who went out and found him, gave him this other chance after, leaving LSU and kind of getting buried in the depth chart. And he's flourished under DJ Durkin. His answers after the Iron Bowl, it sounded like he was staying regardless, but now there's no chance he leaves or very, very little. And I mean, you got to feel like if you played linebacker in this room, like Elijah Melendez, are you more likely to keep him now? Or Bryce Diaz? Or is the defensive back room more likely to stay together now with, Caleb Harris or Kayan Lee or Jay Crawford, who is obviously a guy that a lot of us are super, super high on. It doesn't make any of them a sure thing, but it helps with every single player, the chance of them staying. And as Alex Golesh said at his opening presser just a few days ago, Daryl, that's the priority. Their current roster is super, super important, keeping the roster together, and this is a step towards that.
Familiarity is a big thing, and
yep.
I get it. And sometimes change is good. You need change if the results aren't there. But I think there's certain components of this Auburn football team that did perform, and especially particular parts of his defense. And, guys like Fagans and Winters that were recruited by Durkin. You don't want to lose part of your future on that. I think it speaks volume, and he's also a very good recruiter. I think it speaks volumes, though, when more than just defensive players lobbied for him to stay and said that they really, really like DJ Durkin. So,
sure.
I guess it's continuity. It's holding stuff together. And you are going to have big changes. I mean, this roster and this culture and all this some of it has to be flipped. But there are certain things that do need to stay familiar and stay constant. And I think that this is a good move on that aspect of it.
Yeah. And we get to see now the argument that so many Auburn fans are making, the ones that we made all last offseason, was if the offense is just okay, and last year we were talking about Jackson Arnold, but whoever's at quarterback, if they're just okay and the defense stays on par with what they've been, I mean, we've said it, all throughout the season. If Auburn's offense is average, Auburn might be 8-4 or better right now. Like, we're not asking for a ton. And then you bring in Alex Golesh, whose offenses have been elite everywhere he's been. It's easy to get excited about that.
I do think that with the style and the way that Golesh plays and how this offense could look, all that matters is winning games next year. And people need to, I think, expect or understand that this defense may look a little bit different. This defense may give up more points and more yards just based upon what Golesh does.
Yeah.
Who cares if you're winning games 34-24, 34-27. You take that all day after losing games, period. And so
I don't care if we're winning 38-35 or 10-7. Let's just win some freaking football games.
Exactly. So it will look a little different. I mean, I think there are going to be, and look, let's be totally honest. And this is not, I'm not putting this at the feet of Durkin, but sometimes people get selective amnesia and forget that there were multiple times throughout the year that either Auburn tied or took a lead in a game where the defense didn't hold a lead. So, yes, statistics look great. It's a good defense. But sometimes when you make that stop is more important than just making a bunch of stops. And so Auburn, unfortunately, did not, like against Alabama, drove the field 27-20. I mean, that right there is going to happen. But now you hope that you have an offense that can overcome that and react and respond to that.
Yeah, I mean, it happened the last two seasons where, Auburn's offense would finally get things going. And sometimes it was something set up by the defense and the offense took advantage. And then it just felt like anytime Auburn was one stop away, even though the defense had made, several all game to keep them in it, there still has to be a moment where it's like, okay, we need one more. We need one more. And really every case except for Arkansas, that just didn't really happen. Even Baylor, that was more of a special teams thing that kind of broke that open. So that's something that we'll have to look at. And that's something that we don't need to brush over, but bringing DJ Durkin back makes a ton of sense for on-field and off the field purposes. There's another element of this too, that I think is another good thing that fans should like about Alex Golesh, and it's how aware he is. And I want to touch on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Live betting, Daryl, is a big thing. I mean, how many times does something big happen in the first quarter or the first few minutes of any game, whether it's football, basketball, whatever level it might be? FanDuel, their live betting features, you can bet on what's actually happening, not what just, kind of blew up in your face, the first week or so, or the first few minutes of the game. And I think that's great. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Head over to FanDuel.com to get in on the action today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Zach Blackerby, Daryl Dappridge here with you. Something that has stood out pretty early on with Alex Golesh. He hasn't been here very long. Hyper aware of the situation, of what he's walking into, as far as the landscape, as far as expectations, as far as what the fan base wants, as far as the importance of the priority of how you're building your roster for next year. And the #1 thing needs to be, retention. And also, I think DJ Durkin's big for a few reasons. I'm not saying that he cares necessarily about he's going to make a decision on a major piece of his staff because of fan reaction. I'm not saying that, but there are several elements of why you would bring DJ Durkin back, despite, some of the concerns that some people brought up that I think are 100% valid in regards to what if you have players that are more loyal to DJ Durkin than the head coach, Alex Golesh. I understand why those concerns would be there, but it seems like even this delay that has happened, it seemed like Alex Golesh was pretty ready to say, yeah, DJ, I want you to be my defensive coordinator. And it sounded like DJ needed time to think about it.
Well, one thing that I've noticed, and if it is any indication of how he handled that press conference, is that Alex Golesh can read the room.
Yes.
He can read, from silly questions to questions that, were designed to try to get an answer out of him about Durkin and how he handled that. he reads the room. His self-awareness is great. And what he's coming into, he understands. And I think that anybody that's going into a situation where they're a head coach, there is that fear of, if you are an alpha and you're like, I want them to listen to me, not DJ Durkin, but if you're really secure in who you are, and you know that you're a leader of men and that you have that dog personality, you're not threatened by that. You're not threatened by it. You're like, look, at the end of the day, DJ, if you want to be here, this is how we're doing it. I'm still the head coach. I'll leave you alone on the defensive side of the ball, but this is still what I need from you, right? And I think
Golesh even talked about that with his offensive coordinator calling plays. I mean, I think that's just I think it's a great point there. I think it's who he is.
It's who he is, and he'll help with the game plan. Offensively, he may have some input on, from a defensive standpoint. What I've always felt like is, if you're a defensive coordinator and you don't try to tap into a great offensive mind to help you stop somebody with your defense, you're not utilizing all the tools and resources being made available to you.
Yeah, I think it's a good point.
I know that Ted Roof consulted a lot with Gus Malzahn during that year that they won the national title on certain things.
Yeah, that worked out. Safe to say that worked out. Also, having Cam Newton and Nick Fairley on your roster helps too.
Yes.
But yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, so all in all, great news, great day for Auburn. DJ Durkin staying on Auburn's staff. Daryl, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410. Obviously, I'm with you twice a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, and then we do our lives. Basketball. No more football, kind of sad, but we'll do our lives right after basketball games.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review there as well. It helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.